Comey lie.
And there was another tweet just moments ago during this segment starting. After years of Comey with the phony and dishonest Clinton investigation and more, running the FBI, I think it's running or ruining the FBI, its reputation into tatters, worst in history. But fear not, we will bring it back to greatness. What he's referring to is, you've got Comey, and of course Mueller was there as well. Now you've got these previous investigations run by a clear Trump hater, which is the Clinton email investigation. Yeah. So this agent that was at issue that was let go from the Mueller investigation, his name is Peter Strzok. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that perfectly. Right. But he was not just moved to the Mueller investigation, but before that, in charge of the email Clinton investigation.
And was at the interview of Hillary Clinton when she was interviewed before the FBI cleared her.
That's right. He just helped draft the exoneration of her before that interview even happened. He was also a part of the private investigation into then candidate Trump by the FBI. Following the fake Russian dossier. So you look at almost every single thread of the so-called Justice Department, and between James Comey and Peter Strzok and a few others, it looks like it's been an inside job. You feel like the deep state is all slanted toward Hillary Clinton.
It is the deep state, but it's also add the media back in. I mean, I would go back to what Brian Ross did yesterday. It wasn't just that the stock market tanked, that it was retweeted, I don't know how many, hundreds of thousands of times, but look at what happened on The View. It was like a breaking news scenario.
Yeah, millions of people are watching.
And is she going to correct herself on The View on Monday? We'll have to watch.
She was dancing a happy dance about the Brian Ross report.
Almost literally doing a happy dance. And then chanting, lock him up. I mean, the amount of giddiness around this that you see in newsrooms, as well as, unfortunately, it looks like, based on these text messages, and we haven't seen the text messages but they're apparently fairly damning enough to show that there's a political agenda.
I know that
I think there'll have to be a public accounting, and I think the fact is they were bad enough and anti-Trump enough that even Robert Mueller said, whoa, this is going to overshadow my investigation. This is going to be a problem. And I mentioned James Comey. He's at the center of this. Another one of his posts on Instagram yesterday. To paraphrase Buddha, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. James Comey, did you get the truth about the Hillary Clinton investigation? If you were writing 2-3 months before you interviewed her and Huma Abedin and others, you were drafting an exoneration statement. Did you get at the truth, sir? Did you get at the truth, really?
Ed, you know what? That gets a fact.
Well,
is
that
fact?
Yeah. All right, good.
Do we think that they're going to revisit this Clinton investigation?
It's got to bring that up, doesn't it, Ed? I mean, if it was a rigged investigation,
and the amount of pressure this president has put on Attorney General Jeff Sessions, it would suggest that they are at least looking at the possibility of another special counsel.
I mean, you've still got so many, Rosenstein, everybody else, all the usual players are still there, a part of this entire complex. And again, all of it was premised on the fact that Hillary Clinton was going to be president of the United States, and there'd never be a reckoning. There'd never be a public accounting. Now it is happening, and it's a slow drip. You know, this guy was kicked off the Mueller investigation 6 months ago. So this is news this morning that we found out about it.
Right.
But it happened 6 months ago.
We found out why. Yeah, we knew he had been pulled.
We found out why, correct.
And he was sent to the Human Resources. That's another interesting thing.
But it was fishy
So he gets in trouble for the messages, and then he gets sent to the FBI's Human Resources Division. So he's now at HR at the FBI. But we didn't know in August why did he get pulled, and now we know why.
But we tried. But the U.S. Congress did try to find out. Representative Nunes asked. It was fishy enough. This guy was high-ranking enough in this investigation that they were like, we need to kind of know why. And they stonewalled him. You can see how, you can expect the stonewalling under Obama administration. You see how deep state things are when you're getting stonewalling under a Trump administration.
It's almost the worst fears confirmed. The stonewalling is because there was political bias in the investigation that has now come out and really tainted not just this special counsel, but everything before it.
Greg Jarrett, one of our legal experts, he's going to be here in a couple of moments breaking all of this down. But we've got a lot of other news. We're talking about Hillary Clinton and how she hasn't left the stage, how this keeps coming back. Well, she hasn't literally left the stage either. She's out there talking to Teen Vogue, complaining about, yes, tax cuts and how she thinks the president's plan, which is now being passed, is unfair.
In the last 24 hours, the Senate passed this absolutely horrible tax cut plan. It's great for Donald Trump and his family, but it's going to make life much harder for middle-class families and poor families. It even cuts the tax deduction for teachers who buy supplies for their classrooms and their students. Heaven forbid if you buy some extra books or crayons or audiovisual or laptop help, anything. This could not be a more blatant and insulting attack on hardworking Americans. And we can't let them get away with it.
You know, Rachel, earlier in the program, it's true. I dismissed Teen Vogue.
We had a tax expert on yesterday.
You did dismiss Teen Vogue.
But you say I shouldn't. Why?
No, you shouldn't, because listen, a lot of people watch our show or they watch CNN. But guess what? There's a lot of people that watch The View, that there are young people who are very formative, very, very influenced by a platform like Teen Vogue. And so I think, you know, the Democrats do a good job of infiltrating these spaces that I think too many conservatives and Republicans think are beneath them.
With their spin. And you say there's a lot of spin in what they're
doing. Yeah, we had a tax expert on yesterday, a CPA from New Jersey, who has been going, combing through the bills. And yes, Hillary Clinton may be right that the House version of this was going to cut reimbursing expenses for teachers. The Senate came in and said, no, we're not going to do that. And this expert says they're actually trying to double what teachers can write off. So that's not exactly true, number one. And number two, when you say, oh, this is just going to benefit the Trump family, it's not like the Clinton family is middle class. So be careful how you throw these stones.
It's also just, Ed, you've been covering this forever. I mean, you watch the political discourse, and when are the Democrats going to get a new talking point? Ever. It's always Republicans only love rich people and hate poor people, and their motives are nasty and mean, and they want school teachers to lose all their crayons.
I'll tell you.
That's what they want.
I'll tell you, Pete, why people are not going to believe the talking points this time, and that's because Donald Trump, over the last year, has done a lot of things to help this economy in terms of deregulation that are making places that were once economically depressed under the Obama sort of socialist policies that are now booming. And so when Donald Trump comes out and says, this is going to make things go into even more overdrive, they believe him.
Wait, so you hate teachers and crayons?
Yeah, no. I love teachers.
No, pro tip for the White House, though. Pro tip for the White House, the president probably should have gone to a school yesterday and gotten some crayons rather than hanging out, having a fundraiser with rich people in New York right after passing a tax cut.
There's no school on Saturday.
It's going to help the middle class. Yeah, do it on Monday morning.
Okay. No school
9 a.m. Monday.
And also, it still has to go to conference.
It's a bad look.
Let's see if that survives the conference.
Yeah, it's got a lot to go. But
all right, coming up.
Huge progress so far.
Will liberal cities change their sanctuary status after the Kate Steinle verdict? I doubt it. Michelle Malkin here to weigh in, coming up.
And it's happening again. A high school football coach is under fire for praying with his team. Atheists say he broke the law. But isn't this their First Amendment right? We'll talk about that coming up.
A top FBI agent, Peter Strzok, pulled from the Mueller probe after sending anti-Trump and pro-Clinton text messages. Turns out this agent was involved in both the Russia collusion and Clinton email probes.
That's right. House Intel Chair Devin Nunes outraged, saying, quote, by hiding from Congress and from the American people, documented political bias by a key FBI head investigator for both the Russia collusion probe and the Clinton email investigation, the FBI and DOJ engaged in a willful attempt to thwart Congress's constitutional oversight responsibility.
Here to react is Fox News anchor Greg Jarrett. Let's talk about this. I mean, does this really undermine this new news, the entire Mueller investigation?
It does. Look, it had already, its credibility called into question as, corrupt and prejudiced. Mueller stacked it with Democratic donors. Mueller himself, under the statute, is required to disqualify himself. He didn't do it. So is Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General. He's both prosecutor and a witness in the case. Both of them should be nowhere near this investigation, and yet they're intimately involved in it. And now we know, an FBI agent was sending out anti-Trump emails. That guy should have never been on this investigation. He should never have been involved in the Hillary Clinton investigation. And in fact,
he was at the Clinton interview.
Yeah, he did the interview. And he was also involved in Comey's drafting of the statement of exoneration of Hillary Clinton months before she ever sat down for the interview. So it was a setup, and it was probably, in my judgment, obstruction of justice in the Hillary Clinton case by Comey and perhaps others. They were interfering in the due administration of an investigation.
Well, wait a second. James Comey's on Instagram and Twitter talking about truth, justice, and the American way.
He doesn't know anything about any of those subjects. He is the most insufferable, self-righteous person I think I've ever covered. And he's also a guy who appears to have committed a myriad of crimes. He stole government crimes. He stole government documents. and conveyed them to somebody who wasn't authorized to see him. That's a violation of the
go-between who then leaked
when he was
right,
the leaker.
and then leaked it to the media. That, as I look at the statute, is a crime.
So this Peter Strzok, FBI agent who was dismissed 6 months ago, we knew that he was dismissed from the Mueller probe. We didn't know why. Why has it been so difficult to find out the real there?
Because the Department of Justice, the FBI, and to some extent Robert Mueller, have been trying to hide it from Congress. And that constitutes contempt. Chairman Nunes of the House Intelligence Committee needs to pursue the contempt citation, have Congress vote on it, refer it to a federal judge for prosecution against Rod Rosenstein and Christopher Wray, the FBI director, because they're the ones who've been obstructing it. And I guarantee you this FBI agent, Peter Strzok, when he's put under oath, will invoke the Fifth.
We've got a minute. Let's talk about the impact of Flynn pleading guilty to lying to the FBI. A crime, as you know, obviously, but we had Alan Dershowitz on yesterday saying that everyone's hyperventilating about this, but he thinks it actually shows that the Mueller probe is sort of, hitting, if not a dead end, that it's not going anywhere in terms of obstruction, because that's the best he has, is lying to the FBI. Important, but that it's not going to lead to obstruction.
What's interesting...
Or collusion.
Flynn, well, there's no such thing as collusion in a political campaign. It's not a crime. It's only an antitrust law. Look, Flynn lied about something that's not a crime. It's not a crime to talk to the Russians in a transition period before inauguration. Every incoming president and his transition team does it. I've heard some talking heads say, oh, it's a violation of the Logan Act. That's preposterous. First of all, the Logan Act has been regarded by the federal courts as unconstitutional. And even if it's a valid law, there was no violation of the Logan Act because Flynn and the transition team were not acting as private individuals under the act, but as a representative of the incoming president.
We appreciate you bringing these facts to the table this morning.
We're out of time. There's a new Trump tweet. I'm going to ask you in the break about it and then bring it to you on the other side. Okay. So that's a little tease, as they say in the business. Still ahead, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson going to run for president? President, maybe? What he just revealed about his plans for 2020.
And what is happening yet again, a high school football coach for a driver who hit and killed one person and injured 3 others right here in New York City. Police say the driver targeted the victims outside of a Queens nightclub, reportedly after a knife fight. The NYPD does not believe that terror was involved. The incident comes over a month after terrorists plowed a pickup truck through a busy bike path here in Manhattan, killing 8 people. Meanwhile, National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster has a grim new warning about North Korea.
Every time he conducts a missile launch and nuclear test, he gets better.
Has the potential of war with North Korea increased since this latest launch?
I think it's increasing every day.
The comments to our own Brett Baer come as 6 of our military's most powerful stealth fighter jets fly to South Korea for military drills. It's in response to North Korea's latest missile launch, which U.S. officials now say broke apart on re-entry. And former President Barack Obama taking a jab at President Trump while speaking about climate change in Paris.
I grant you that at the moment we have a temporary absence of American leadership on the issue.
Ooh, I thought he wasn't going to do that. His comments come after President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord earlier this year for what he said were economic reasons. The deal, of course, was signed under the Obama administration.
Atheists claim an Indiana high school football coach broke the law by praying with his team. An attorney from the Freedom from Religion Foundation writing to the school district saying, quote, it is illegal for the public schools athletic coaches to lead their teams in prayer, participate in student prayers, or to promote religion to students.
Video from 2014 is raising new questions about Wright's high school football coach Andy Hape and his post-game prayer. So where does this go from here? Michael Berry is the Deputy General Counsel for First Liberty Institute. They're dealing with other cases, not this specific one, involving prayer at school, including the famous Coach Kennedy case. Good morning. We appreciate you being here. And I wonder, what stands out about this case to you?
Well, sadly, at First Liberty Institute, we see things like this happening all across the country. You've got a group from Wisconsin who sends a letter to a school bullying them to try to censor religion. The problem is, if in this case the students are the ones initiating and leading the prayers, you can't censor the students. You can't stop them from praying. They're protected by the First Amendment.
It's interesting. I watched the video of the prayer, and as a parent, I'm thinking of teenagers. I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of worse things that teens could be doing. But what I find interesting is that you're here protecting the rights of the students. They have a First Amendment right to do this, correct?
That's absolutely right. You know, the FFRF, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, seems to be obscuring the facts here. A statement from the school said that, you know, the past practice has been corrected and now every prayer is student initiated and student led. If that's true, then if the students' religious beliefs compel them to, you know, make a circle and even stand near their coach, they absolutely have a right to do that, and the coach is under no obligation to flee the scene just because the students want to pray near him.
We have a statement from the school superintendent there in Indiana. Quote, our coach was there supporting his players. That's what we expect, and that's what we love about our coaches and all of our employees. So you can see the support there from the school. That's important, Michael. But where does this go from here? I mean, is this a junk lawsuit, or is this something that's actually going to have an impact and they're going to stop coaches like this from being able to pray with their team?
Well, you know, look, if any student, teacher, coach, etc., thinks that their constitutional rights have been violated, then I encourage them to go to firstliberty.org. We represent people for free of charge in cases just like this, as we mentioned, the Coach Kennedy case and others all across the country. We've got to stop these bullying tactics from organizations that are trying to censor religion out of our public places.
Thank you. It's so important. You're protecting the religious liberty in this country. You're protecting the rights of students who often feel like they don't have rights when it comes to these situations. It's very, very important. Thank you for your work. And I hope that those schools do call you if they're facing this kind of bullying, both on their coaches and their students. Thank you. Coming
Thank you
up,
for having me.
You got it. Coming up, will liberal cities change their sanctuary status after the Kate Steinle verdict? Michelle Malkin says, not so fast, but the blood is on their hands, she says, and she's going to join us next.
And did you ever smoke pot? The Army wants you. But one Army vet says no way that should happen. He'll join us live.